This is a factory 4Runner engine wiring harness, and it's got the trigger wire for the starter solenoid on it. So I'm going to have to fish that part out of this harness so the starter will work. But what I've got to have, I think, is this wire. Pretty sure. So I'm just going to take the harness apart back through here and see if I can figure out where it goes without too much trouble. The old wiring diagrams are terrible for the old vehicles, so it's almost faster just to take the harness apart and just look at it and see where it goes. The VW wiring diagrams are much easier for me to follow. Of course, maybe it's just because I'm used to working with them. But anyway, I'm going to get started. Finally making more progress on the Toyota. I got a fuse block here, universal fuse block that I mounted on the passenger side fender. I'm going to use that to wire in the ECM fuses and things like that. Powers for the sensors, ECM power, starter control, things like that. I'm probably not going to leave that there permanently. I'm going to put a block of aluminum under it, some angle aluminum, so that it shields it from the turbo that's going to be sitting here. But the first step is just get it wired in, and then I'll deal with the thermal issues later. Got the starter battery power wire to the starter, and comes on around here. I'm going to put the battery on the driver's side instead of the factory location, which is on the passenger side. And I'm doing that because I want to put the air filter over here where it used to be, because that's going to be right where the turbo needs the air filter. So that'll be a lot easier in the long run. And for the moment, I got a ground wire just going back to a bolt over by the thermostat, one of the big bracket bolts. Probably won't leave it like that, but that's where it is for the moment for testing. So right now I'm trying to find a switched wire, ignition switched wire for all the ECM powers. So this wire has to be hot when the key is on, and even when you turn it to start, to engage a starter. Can't lose power there. Obviously that would be a big problem if you lost power to the ECM when you engage the starter. So what I've got here is a power probe. That's the connection for the power probe. This is a really awesome tool. So it's similar to, it's kind of like a multimeter, but it's got a toggle switch here. That's ground, and I push it up, and that puts power. So when I push it up, it puts power on this tip here, up here. So you can use that to power circuits for testing. If I push the switch down, it turns the tip into a ground. So it's a very handy tool. The end comes out, and it's a standard multimeter lead. So if you've got some leads, with whatever ends you like to use or need for the situation, you just put them on here. And you can also turn the sound off. But for right now, I want the sound on. So this is the ECM socket right here, or ECM relay, factory Toyota ECM relay socket. I believe that's the ground for the relay. This is the switched power. Turn the key so you can hear. So that's on with the key. If I turn it on, then engage the starter, it stays on. So that's good. Now we're going to verify that that ground and everything is going to actually carry a load. So we're going to do a famous headlight test. That's a headlight bulb out of a new Beetle or something, I think. I don't know, doesn't matter. And so I'm going to put it in that switch power and then the ground. We're going to see if this circuit actually will carry a load or if it's just a weak signal circuit. One of these leads should definitely be fused, but obviously it's not. I'll fix that someday. There you have it. That's our switch power source. So now I can run that all over to my ECM relay and other sensors and things like that at the fuse block. Well, good news. I just finished wiring the engine, or at least going through the harness and getting everything connected enough to see if the ECM works, which it does. So that was really exciting. Turned the key to power it on, and first time it read codes. My scanner picked up codes and communicated, and the sensor plugs have power, and I only have one fault in the ECM after I cleared the codes that it had. So that's a real good start. So we might finally be on the downhill side of the wiring. This is a diagram for the fuse block that I created. So basically I just figured out what fuses were missing and recreated those, and then figured out, under what conditions they needed power, and then where the output of that power went to and what it was supposed to do. So it took a little bit of time, but it wasn't all that difficult. You just had to be methodical. But now I have a good diagram of what I did, and so now later if I have issues or need to troubleshoot things, I'll know exactly where to go. So here we are. So here's my fuse block at the moment. It's not finished, but it's together enough to get the ECM powered up and working. And there's the ECM. It's going to go in the location of the factory ECM on the Toyota here, but I left it out here under the engine bay, or in the bay, so that I can work on it when I need to while I'm trying to figure all this out. Got several other things to wire up. A lot of them will come out of these connectors. And here's my data link port, the DLC. I about messed that up. I had to repin the connector. I was not paying attention. As you can see, it will pull a code. Soon I'll be getting a VAGCOM scanner, but this is what I have at the moment, and it works alright for just pulling quick codes and clearing codes. I used it a lot when I was a tech, just to clear codes that I had created during my services. But for any real capabilities, this scanner just doesn't do it. But it's interesting. It'll do some data stream. Response is pretty slow. So now we're getting into some data, and that temperature is correct for my shop, so looking pretty good.